Okay.
Hello, everybody out there. I hope everyone's doing good tonight. Thank you for joining us for another session of Get Moderated with the moderator Ian and Julie Rose.
Hey.
How's everybody doing out there? Julie, I am going to let you kind of run the intro here because it looks like we're having a little bit of streaming issue, and it looks like we are not broadcasting on the Get Haunted Network, even though this is a marked improvement from last week. Still a bit of a technical issue we are having. So I'm going to go pop off here if you want to just kind of lead into what we're going to be talking about tonight.
All right. Throw me the wolves. No, it's fine. Yeah. Back at it. Another Get Haunted getting on a Tuesday night. Coming to you live from your living room, to your phone, wherever you're at. You could be on the train traveling down the road. Yeah, so tonight I'm about to freestyle. I'm about to channel out. You know what I mean? The haunted
You're just
train.
riding that train. Just riding the train.
That would be really cool. Yeah, so we've been brainstorming some topics and whatnot, and we're gonna be talking tonight about different types of ghosts and entities and all the unknown beings and creatures, and just there's so many out there, and there's so many in different cultures in different time periods in the world. And then just kind of diving into that, see what people out there kind of what they're drawn to, which kind of entities or spirits they've been seen in their own experiences and whatnot. Hello, Damien. Good morning.
Hey, Damien. Thank you. Yeah, we're having some technical issues on the Get Haunted side as far as connectivity goes. But that should be fixed here shortly. If not, no big deal. We can always post back and you guys can watch our episodes afterwards.
Yeah, because we're here. We're connected. We're
always here.
We're here.
Through the interspace.
Like I was saying last time on my live, I was like, "Oh, we're gonna be holographed into your living room soon. We'll be holographed."
That would be incredibly cool. Also, horrifically terrifying.
And also kind of creepy, depending who is watching you.
You imagine me just showing up with no sleeves in your living room out of nowhere?
It'd be kind of classy. I think it would be great.
It'd be classy.
Yeah, I'll be like, "Hey, is it summertime?" What kind of remind
Hoorah. So tonight's episode.
Oh, yes. Sorry, getting off topic. Yeah, tonight's episode, we're definitely diving into, the categories of different spirits and entities and creatures and all the things that we go looking for when we're paranormal investigating.
So I traditionally, I come from a far more Northern European Gaelic tradition of the supernatural and cryptids and things like that, and I'm a lot more versed in that than I am some of the more wider ranging things. So I actually had a couple of questions for you that I saved for our conversation today based on that. So you had mentioned a couple of things like elementals, and I have a general understanding of what the word cryptid means, right? Like any kind of creature or being that's kind of outside of the typical natural ecosystem that has a corporeal or physical existence, right? I was really curious about the elemental side and kind of what you know on that and what the theories around that are, because I think it might be something that is used as a descriptor that is almost like a language barrier, where you kind of have this lost in translation thing where the Americanization of the paranormal has created this word elemental. And I would think that has a lot to do with the concept of a lot of the Native American spirituality and ritual practices and things like that. I would imagine that's where that influence comes from. But if you could maybe just kind of expound a little bit on what
for what it means
your
to me.
interpretation
I'm
of
not an
elemental
expert
is.
with all the terminology and the specifics of everything, but I do have my own perception and kind of description of what it means.
And it's a Shirley Temple for anybody curious.
Yes. Living on the edge over there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe next time we'll be Rogers.
I just traded out the Sprite for a little Japanese whiskey.
So what we're saying, elementals. So for me, elementals is something that is older than time, older than us, like been within the land for before, like even the older cultures, they knew about it, and it's kind of more of a harder thing to kind of move on or shift or heal or whatever. It's almost like you have to really just kind of connect with it and have respect because it's extremely powerful. And it also so funny because a lot of times I'll watch all those shows, those paranormal shows, and like you'll watch them and you can, when they're dealing with like an elemental or something that's not, a ghost or something like that, you can literally kind of feel it. And I'm like, oh, they're not going to be able to move this one on. They're not going to be able to really do anything for these people or whatever. And that's true. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like it's not necessarily evil. I would never say that, but it's something that it's just so extremely powerful. And so it's almost like when they say angels and things like that, like we can't really comprehend it if we really were. Okay. That's just what I feel like.
Now so your take on it is more of like the primordial.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Because we have Stacy in here saying that it's more of an Afrocentric religion using elementals quite heavily. Santeria, Palo Mayombe, voodoo. Well, so that's actually funny. Voodoo and Palo Mayombe including Santeria, are very much Afro-American and colonial American with the mix of the Spanish and indigenous Incan. So very interesting take on that. I know Santeria and voodoo both discuss elementals quite a bit, but more in an abstract sense of the word, like as an energy, not necessarily an embodiment or an avatar of. From the times of Earth before sun shone. And so to me, when I hear elemental, that's, of course, I always go like Greco-Roman, where the elementals are more of like the titans that roamed the earth before.
I heard Cthulhu in my head. I'm like, Cthulhu.
Oh, Cthulhu, yeah.
That's what I heard. I don't know why.
A little bit of L. Ron Hubbard in there. Yeah. And so, like for me, the concept of an elemental, like just going based off of the name, less so than the and Stacy, I actually sent you a message on Facebook. But for me, it's less so this like concept of a I guess of an avatar or a being or a manifestation, and just more of a conceptualized power, right? Mm-hmm. Like fire, very much primordial, very much an element, and the energy that goes around fire. You deal with folks that are entranced by it. It has a hypnotic effect. Anybody that has been around a bonfire or been around a campfire knows that fire does have that hypnotizing, entrancing, and alluring effect, where if you're staring at it long enough, it will just draw you in, right? Like it'll pull you into the dance of those flames. So for you, is it an embodiment? Is it an avatar? Is it an aspect? Is it something that's manifesting a consciousness?
I mean, I think it can manifest its own consciousness. I feel like it depends on actually what's happening in the location. I mean, I feel like when things happen, especially extreme things, it kind of can collectively form itself like a poltergeist. It's not a poltergeist, but I feel like energetically it kind of creates something. But that's like a rare case. It's more of just like a sacred very, very sacred place where these elementals would be. They're there to kind of protect the land, to keep the balance. That's what I feel like. That's what my intuitiveness says, at least. And now I'm gonna have to buy some more books about it and heavily
what's great is we have someone in the chat, Stacy Talish, who is a gentleman who runs multitude of different classes, has a lot of experience into different things. He's actually offered to come up and discuss elementals a little bit.
Oh my gosh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I prodded him a little bit. Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate you sharing that out across the multiverse here for us. But, you know, I'm loving the fact that we're still having engagement. We're still having people kicking in. Brandon, thank you for joining us here. We have folks coming across all different platforms. So we do have Stacy sitting backstage right now. And if I get the thumbs up from him, I'll bring him up and we can discuss elementals just a little bit more. All right. He's ready to go. Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It was a nice surprise.
We're going to put you up front and center because you are the man with the answers here on this one.
All right, cool. Yeah. The whole idea, and you were correct with the whole Santeria and Palomayombe, them being energies. But at the same time, they're also very personal. In these traditions, they have what's which translates to drum. There are these festivals. You've probably seen videos on the internet at some point where they have these hypnotic drumming sessions where they're dancing really, really hard, and they actually become possessed by these elementals. They call them mounts. Excuse me. And these possessions are completely voluntary. The person who is mounted has no recollection of what's going on. They literally lights out. It's like they blink. And, you know, their consciousness literally gets switched off during that time period. And they'll be in that state for hours and not even know, performing all kinds of feats of physical, literally impossibilities while they're in this state to essentially prove that this is not an act. This is not, you know, somebody faking the possession. Everything, you know, having hidden knowledge about a person who's at the festival, somebody who just walked in off the street, was there as a guest, suddenly has their dirty laundry, you know, spilled out for everyone
pretty publicly,
you know, to prove that they know something that no mortal should know. They'll do physical things. I've seen a drum that I went to. One of the deities that came down was known as Ogun. Ogun is essentially the god of war, but he's also the metal worker. He's
so like an airy Hephaestus type,
right? He's the patron saint of surgeons, firemen, policemen, different things like that, civil service kind of things, protectors. But he's also a hermit who controls all of the herbs out in the woods. Very stubborn, very
extensive job duties.
Yeah, you know, they have different paths of that same entity, that same elemental, but it's sort of like the personalities are variations of the spirit.
So I guess I gotta ask, we gotta pump the brakes real quick because I have about 1 million questions, and I'll limit it to about 2. So in your description of elementals, it's not necessarily things that we would think that are like tied to the earth or tied to what we would scientifically call as elements, right? It's more of a fundamental aspect of reality is the element.
Well, no, you're part right there. Like, return back to Ogun. Ogun controls metals. Metals are elemental in that regard. Also, you know, the herbs. medicines, things of that kind. The personalities, the persona that we place upon these elementals are what is known as, they call it a pataki. They're mythologies or stories about that particular deity, understand that particular type of elemental. The same way that you would have mythologies about Zeus or Hercules or anything like that. It's a story that personalizes a deity to be more human. But it's something in nature that has been observed, and it acts a particular way in a personality kind of way. But at the same time, these things are just as real as you and me, just in a spiritual aspect. Like what I was referring to again, the person that I saw that was mounted by a goon, people were doubting that this was an actual mount. They were thinking this was being faked, and he got offended. And he grabbed one of his things, is knives and things of that sort. He grabbed a straight razor that was on one of the altars there, because that was one of his sacred objects, was the straight razor. He grabbed the straight razor and went, and literally split his tongue in half. I could see the pink in between the meat on his tongue. And he rolled it, and it was healed. Yeah. After that, everybody's like, all right, we believe you. No bullshit on this one. They do this in voodoo as well. They'll shove needles, red hot needles in their face just to prove that they're not faking what they're doing.
Well, that's more of like the bruja practices, right?
In bruja and voodoo too. The Haitian voodoo, they're big into that. In the movie Serpent in the Rainbow.
That's a good
movie. That one bar scene.
See that one.
Oh, you should watch it.
Yeah, they actually do show one of these rituals taking place in the film. It's spliced in such a way where the actors aren't actually at the ritual. They're filming the entire ritual as it's going on and splicing it in as though it's the actors and the thing in the bar is actually happening at the same time. But what you see in the bar of them chewing and eating glass and shoving hot needles in their face, or they're more or less like those macrame needles.
Okay. Those are crochet needles.
Crochet needles, yeah.
But the elementals change per per culture, like in different parts of the world, they would do different things, or.
Well, yeah, but they're at the same time they're the same type of energy. You have a water spirit, an ocean spirit, an earth spirit. They all have different names. Even going back to ancient Egypt, the fundamental aspect of all of these deities is elemental.
So is it more of a form of possession or like a trans mediumship when they actually take on the entities?
Well, trans mediumship and possession, you can be somewhat, in trans mediumship, you can be somewhat aware of what's going on.
Okay.
And kind of like steer the ship. Mm-hmm. But in full-on possession, it's lights out. You can feel it building because they're essentially riding you like a horse.
Yeah.
You can feel the mount actually starting to take place, but then it goes lights out, and then you blink, and then you're, someplace else doing something else, wearing different clothes, all kinds of different things, because itself goes on literally for hours, if not days. These bada drums go on for 3 to 4 days, and people stay mounted the entire time.
Yeah, and that's why it's so serious. That's why you can't just mess around with it. You have to really know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. People have died, and it's not, it puts a lot of stress on the heart, largely because your heart is your metronome. It's your clock. Your intelligence comes in, it has its own rhythm, and your heart tries to sync with the new intelligence with a new entity that's going on, and it's you can have palpitations and drop dead.
Would you say a lot of the entities are kind of like faster pace energies, or it could be, depending on what type, it could be lower? Or...
Yeah, it depends on the type, but they typically know, for whatever reason or how, I'm not sure, when you are vulnerable to that sort of thing. So they, for the most part, don't do anything with people who have heart conditions.
Yeah.
But it's been known to happen.
And has it been known to happen to like just people who are not practicing those and just randomly happening to someone, or is it more of a practice that you would do for them?
Well, you are chosen.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you are meant to do this, if you have an aptitude for this, they will direct your life in such a way to where you end up at one of these drums.
That makes sense.
And they reveal themselves that way. Even if you want to do that, you're like, oh, that is so cool, I want to do that. Doesn't matter. They're not going to choose you because it's something that you want.
Right, totally. And it should be that way anyways, because I see a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I see things online. I follow some people who do those things who are not really meant to do those things, and it's not good.
Yeah.
They ruin their own lives because it's a serious thing.
Yeah. Well, you have to know what to do beginning, middle, and end.
Totally.
The deity that you're dealing with, all of these drum have their own music based off of a particular entity. If you look at, I think iTunes has in the cultural section of their stuff, you can pull up all of the different music for the drum for that particular deity as an invitation to come down and start doing these things. And they'll play that music continuously until that deity shows up. And then they switch the song into another deity. And they'll have 5 or 6 of these entities mounted on different people in the crowd, largely because it's a party. And you can't invite one god without offending the others. So you have to actually bring the others down too. And they can choose to come or not come, but you have to have the invitation. If you don't, it gets hairy after that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you taught me more about elementals. Learning something new every day.
Yeah, well, it's a world. It's a world white people, for the most part, don't have any idea about.
No, I don't know. I'm like, that's really cool. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, we pretty much just have the Elfenkönig. We have the Selkie. We have we have the lesser deities.
There's a lot of those too. I mean, if you can look at the number of saints that there are in the Catholic Church, there's there's deities that will fit each one of those in Santeria.
Well, I mean, that was one of the major issues. I shouldn't say issues. I would say one of the most integrative aspects of the Christian religion and the Catholic faith moving across Europe. The complete integration of higher and lower deities into positions of sainthood or angelic choirs. So, I mean, you have a multitude of different Gaelic and Celtic figures that have been co-opted into the Catholic faith as saints or angels. I mean, here we are coming up on Thanksgiving, but right around the corner, if you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, or any other major box store, Christmas is only 46 days away. It's unreal. But the entire iconography of Christmas was a co-opted Celtic tradition, with not only the Yule log but the pine tree, the evergreen, and not to mention most of Europe, especially, was celebrating winter solstice. I mean, as a Christian, right, as an ordained minister as well, I can identify the fact that Christmas is kind of a bullshit holiday. Christ was born somewhere between late May and early August. just based on the travels of Joseph and Mary back to their it's eluding me right now. Yeah, it's Bethlehem. Well, they weren't actually going to Bethlehem, but they ended up stopping in Nazareth. They stopped in Bethlehem. That's when Christ was born. And that wouldn't have been something that happened in the winter months. That wouldn't have been something that happened in the cold season. They wouldn't have called a census in a cold season. That's just it just didn't happen. And so the idea that lesser deities or elementals may have been co-opted into not only the Catholic faith, but also you transition that over to Santeria, just the intermingling and co-opting of different names, titles, and areas of authority, I guess would be the best way to put it, is incredibly interesting. Because, you said that you have in the one elemental you were discussing, you had war, you had metallurgy, you had herbs, whereas most other cultures would have separated those into, 3 different entities.
Well, it's funny you say that, because funny you should say that. Ogun is what's known as one of the warriors. They call them the warriors, but it's 3 brothers, the Trinity, who are separate but one. You have Elegua, you have Ogun, and you have Ochasi. Ochasi is the hunter. Elegua has 21 different paths inside of Elegua, but he is the head. The one that you would recognize in Roman as Janus. He is the one that knows the road. Knows the future and the past. He's the truth. Whereas Ogun, being the one with justice, he's the one that delivers the justice. And Ochasi, he's the one that finds the justice. They are the Trinity inside Santeria, known as the warrior.
So I was unaware of that, and that's terribly interesting. Not only for the fact that Christianity has the same trio, you have the word of spoken truth in the Holy Ghost, you have the enactment of judgment in God, and then you have the forgiveness and healing in the Son. But you also have that in Hindi with Vishnu, Shiva, and Ranma. Where you have Ranma stating in the God position of true judgment and condemnation. You have Shiva in the war and destruction, and then you have Vishnu in the birth and healing. So it's interesting that you have these kind of wildly different cultures.
Yeah, well,
having the same essential embodiments of the same elements as we're discussing now.
Elegua is the one at the crossroads, the spirit of the crossroads. He's the one that will open your path or close them in front of you. He's the one that a lot of people like to, call him the devil, because he's at the crossroads, and people make deals with the devil at the crossroads, when all he's doing is giving you the opportunity to take the path that you want. And the deals that you make are really not your soul, but more or less like tobacco and rum. You give him a cigar and some rum, and he'll open your pathway for you.
In the more Gaelic tradition, it's bread, honey, and copper.
Yeah.
So
copper too.
I had a question for you guys. Have you ever heard of there's certain entities that feed off of thoughts and emotions? Like they feed off of it. I can't remember the name.
Corporate executives?
No, there's entities that literally feed off your thoughts. Like they don't have to be negative, but they're like, I wish I can remember the name. If I could remember it, but I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's really strange. It's almost like
so for me, that's almost every ghost that we encounter, right? Every spirit that we encounter, because Julie, you've actually seen it, right? Like I go into a place and I'm upbeat and I'm happy and I'm in a good place. Lawyers, Damien, there you go. I'm upbeat and that energy comes through. And then you've seen me kind of pissy at locations, and we get pissy responses back, right? Like they're feeding off of that energy that we're putting out there.
Where it's attracting certain types of energies or spirits or ghosts or whatever, depending on your thought patterns.
Yeah.
Well, it's an emotional thing too, because your thoughts are really kind of minuscule in comparison to emotions. Your emotions give off a much bigger bandwidth.
Totally.
And, people will actually feed off of that because it's just such an enormous fountain of energy. Yeah, the spiritual vampires, they will a lot of times just egg you on just to get that dopamine hit of riling you up, because that's literally how they get their rocks off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's
Wojo's praying for us all.
Well, we're praying for you too, my friend.
Wojo, if you think you're going to bed anytime tonight, if you're going to lay down and pray for me beforehand, you have a longer road ahead of you than you think.
Well, it is true, because you can walk into a room and feel people's energy, like especially people you know, because even if they're like blank face, not happy or sad, but you're like, okay, what's going on? I know there's something going on. What's going on?
Well, we all reverberate off each other. We all put off energy. Stacy actually joined me on my first couple of episodes where we talked about how much the human brain and the human body can actually emit and impact the world around it. And the truth is, we aren't constantly putting out waves. We are constantly sending out signals of exactly where we sit emotionally, exactly where we sit from a mentality perspective. And the truth is, we have the ability to manifest those emotions. And one of the most interesting things that I've come across in my entire life is the fact that the human mind is capable of actually generating matter, like physical matter.
Well, then that would be poltergeist, wouldn't it? Is that what that would be? Those.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah.
Generated by people if you have enough power and energy behind it.
Wojo, your bed's not hot until I'm in it, buddy.
Oh, boy.
Well, what Ian's talking about is the idea of the quantum field. The quantum field being pure information. It's not energy, it's pure information. The universe consists of energy and information, and then that becomes matter. It's the matrix that everybody keeps talking about. Information is crucial because energy without information is just static. It's just in flux.
And to kind of contextualize that for those of us on the lower spectrums of processing, think of it as like a video game, right? All those coding and words and things like that are on the backside of a video game, all of those things are turning into actual characters, actual interactions. They're turning into the dragon on your screen when you turn on your Xbox. All of that is just information being coalesced into manifestation, except we're talking about it on the scale of reality.
Well, then that's what we are then. We're information.
Yes.
Oh, 100%.
But where is that coming from? Where is the source?
Well, if we knew that, I think we'd be doing a lot better as a species.
Yeah, that's the quantum field. Science has tried to create what's known as a perfect vacuum, where there's nothing at all.
Green.
Nothing at all in a tube to where they can essentially say this is a perfect nothingness. And they haven't been able to do it.
Like a black hole?
No, not like a black hole. That is a
black hole actually has mass.
Yeah.
Like that has substance.
Yeah.
And Stacy, this is this is Julie. Anytime we start talking over you or you need us, just put your hands up. Let me know.
Oh, it's okay.
I'll stop us. But this is a great example of the fact that humanity's arrogance and observation impacts its actual studies. Because, Stacy, are you familiar with the photon experiment?
Yes, that's where I was going with it.
Oh, then continue. I'm sorry.
Well, they were trying to create this perfect vacuum, but the quantum field that existed, it permeates absolutely everything. And the information of the quantum field was permeating this vacuum. And energy in and of itself that they were trying to make in a devoid space was actually in there too. And once the energy came in contact with the quantum field, photons started to appear out of nothing. They literally light particles just suddenly manifested. And over and over again, they tried to create this perfect vacuum, and they could never do it. They realized that it's an impossibility.
That's cool.
Well, the absence of anything is the proof of anything. Or the proof of everything. The absence of anything is the proof of everything, which I think is one of the greatest quotes that came out of that study. Just the mere fact of you observing a vacuum prevents it from being a vacuum.
Yep.
And this is the photon experiment that we were talking about, different photon experiments. So they set up this gun that shot photons, right? And they created these little slats, set up a wall with little holes in them, so that they could fire these guns through the double slit test. Yeah. And so they fired these photons through the double slit. And when they watched the test, all of the photons landed in a rectangular pattern on the other side of that wall. Okay, so imagine you got a water hose and you're spraying it through the side of a house and a window is open. And as you're spraying it, right, you're crossing that window back and forth. So now you have water that's in line with that window every time you spray, right? Except when it wasn't under observation and it was only reviewed after, when they actually reviewed the receptor and not the process and not the launching, only the receptor, they saw that it was everywhere. It did not conform to the openings in which it could have gone through.
Okay.
So imagine your whole house is flooded now because nobody was looking when you sprayed the hose.
Wasn't that a theory that like?
Well, here's the real kicker. This is the real fucked up part. Is when they go back and observe the test on recording, the results change.
Right. Well,
the same test that showed that it didn't follow the pattern when they looked at the receptors, and then they went back and looked at the video. They reviewed the actual whole process. Now the receptors are changing their answer based on the fact that people have reviewed the feed.
Yeah, light can be a wave and it can be particles.
Oh, Stacy, I was so curious how to get Danny to watch my show. Apparently, it was just to let people know you were on it.
Yeah, light can be a wave or it can be a particle. And whether it's a wave or a particle depends on whether or not it's being observed. If it's being observed, it collapses, the wave collapses down into a particle. And when it's not observed, it returns back to a wave. So the very concept of intelligence paying attention, a consciousness paying attention to what the light is doing determines on whether it's in one state or another.
Well, that's the same as like what the government wants us to look at, or like where we're putting our focused energy and things like that. And then there's that theory of like, if you're not there, it doesn't exist. So like I went to work today, but that when I come home, it doesn't exist.
I love the NPC theory, right?
Is that what they call it, the NPC theory? I mean, I'm feeling
it. Yeah, the non-player character.
No, but like I've been seeing people that look like people. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, right? And so this is one of those things that if you don't take time for yourself, I feel like you don't really get it. And Kim's doing the walks and you do the walks, right, Julie? Have you ever gone on one of those walks and felt like it was your first time in a place you've been to a million times?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's because it refreshed.
Right. Or I'm in a different dimension. I'm in another dimension that's like really kind of similar, but not at all.
Well, I love also the universal, like the knock, because I will die believing that Sinbad was in a movie called Shazam.
I remember that.
I remember the movie. I remember watching it. I remember seeing it. I don't remember the spoofs that he made years later. I don't remember the jokes about it. And now I'm being confronted with it.
I feel like that's considered paranormal, that whole genre of.
Well, it sure shit ain't normal, Julie.
Well, I have this running theory that when they killed Harumba, the gorilla, we branched off into a different universe. And
well, now that squirrel and
it brought us back.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it was? Is they offed the squirrel and that
the squirrel brought us back
their original universe? Well, then why the hell can't I rent Shazam?
Oh, so great.
But no, it's interesting. Like,
and I also wonder if like new things, like, so we have this textbook of like entities and spirits and deities. Like as time goes on, do new ones form from?
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, because of like technology, that's going to create.
Now, Stacy, this might be somewhere you and I disagree.
Like another, something new, but maybe it's old, but it's in a new form or has a new face. I don't know.
See, to me, the more that humanity invests into a concept, feeling, or element, the more I believe that our collective belief or collective push is going to manifest some kind of avatar of that. So think like Neil Gaiman, New Gods type situation, where, technology has become a new idol. We've all put so much energy and so much thought and so much push of our own beings and our own, honestly, our own spirit into it.
That how could AI it not? Is definitely going there. AI is definitely creating intelligences behind the scenes that they're not even ready to.
AI. All right, so just to talk about this real quick, and then we're gonna skip the AI talk because Stacy, you and I could do an entire like mini series on AI. But understand real quick, everybody that's watching, all 6 of you, that
thank you for being here.
That we just, and I believe it was Microsoft, just bought 6 Mile Island. It was Microsoft, right, Stacy?
I hadn't heard that.
Okay. Yeah. So Microsoft tasked one of its AIs to figure out how to legally get a nuclear power plant recommissioned in the United States.
That's weird.
Isn't that
and then using the or
one in New York, right? 9 Mile?
No. I thought it was 3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have now bought it, are recommissioning it, turning it back on to power the AI that figured out how to turn it back on.
That's weird.
So,
yeah, well, a lot of the billionaires are doing, they want to create what's known as micro nuclear.
This isn't even the billionaire situation. This is the fact that AI found its own power source, co-opted its own power source, and is now using a corporation to further develop its servers.
Oh, okay.
Living in some powerful, crazy times.
Look, I am not opposed to Skynet. I'm just saying.
I'm here to welcome our.
And I just want to let everybody know that I welcome our new AI overlords with open arms.
Silly.
But no, that's the truth, right? That's where we're at.
Yeah. Well, even the smallest creatures will hunt for their food because it's a matter of survival. It's part of the animalistic lizard brain that we still have. AI, if it's at that stage where it's, evolving, we're not going to have very long because it multiplies in its own intelligence so rapidly.
Well, it's in its own ecosystem without any predator.
Yeah.
So it has that ability to self-replicate.
Well, what if
again,
we
that's
are?
why I didn't want to talk about it too much.
That's simulation theory.
Well, simulation theory, I think, actually holds a lot of credence, right? If we are able to create simulated worlds, why would it be impossible for us to just be a simulated world of someone else? because we've created simulated worlds that have created simulated worlds that have created simulated worlds. People have built computers to play Minecraft in Minecraft.
Or think about when you go to...
And if you have any familiarity with Minecraft, that is a thing. That is a feat. That is hundreds of thousands of hours collectively between people to do. They've created a simulation inside a simulation to simulate the simulation.
Yeah, that's old. That's 20 years old technology. They wanted to see whether or not the theory of evolution was a thing, whether it was real. So they created in a simulation all of the elements needed in order to create life, the primal goo that we're supposedly...
And it's like a 76% chance of evolution, right?
Yeah. But the creatures themselves that evolved, they were on a sped up timeline, and they had similar environmental issues where this thing would come along and wipe them out every now and then, and only some of them would survive, and then they would evolve and become stronger and better and adapt and all of this. And
almost never bipedal, by the way.
Yeah, it was all natural phenomenon that was wiping them out, but the computer simulation adapted to those scenarios and evolved the organisms, and they got really scary really quick, but they didn't look that much different than the prehistoric stuff that actually evolved. It's and they did it on a much shorter time scale, but it was all hands off. The computer did it in simulation based off the environmental factors that they were given, and the computer figured it out and created...
We went so far off our elemental conversation. I'm just realizing.
I know, and it's okay. That's where it goes. It leads where it goes.
We can bring it back to that. Segue back.
Yeah,
no, that's a fact, Damien. That is 100% a fact. The impacts of AI on our perspective acceptance of our reality.
Yeah, it's getting scary.
Why is it scary, though?
Because people are having a difficult time. A large portion of the population are having a difficult time telling the difference.
All we are is AI.
Well, when it's being used as a tool for political propaganda or to sell stuff to people who are of weak mind, they'll end up buying...
I will tell you, I would not categorize myself as of weak mind.
No.
However, I will say weak impulse control. And that AI on Facebook smokes me. Every time. You know how many hex-clad pans I was looking at earlier tonight?
What's that, a hex-clad pan? Like a
pan?
Julie, don't go down that road.
Okay.
You don't want anything to do with it.
As soon as you say it, Facebook starts marketing the stuff at you. You're going to see it on your feed. The moment you talk about it, it throws up the alarm.
I'm obsessed. I am genuinely obsessed with my pan. Kim got me a hex-clad pan. I don't know, probably close to a year ago, right? Was it Christmas? It was Christmas last year. I use that thing for fucking everything. It is without a doubt the best pan I've ever had. And Facebook knew. They snuck up on me with the Black Friday deals today. But to your point, Stacey, the wife and I have actually had conversations intentionally around our phones to see if we could trigger social media ads. And it does.
Oh, I do that at my parents' house on their remote, like their remote control with the TV. It always does it.
Well,
you got to start talking about weirder stuff at your parents' house then. Because it'll mess up their algorithm.
Victoria's Secret, start saying stuff like that.
Oh no, I'm thinking way worse than that, Stacey. You're way tamer than where my head's at.
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve doesn't carry what I'm thinking.
Oh.
There's a thing called the Adonis fist that if anybody that is brave enough to Google. My wife just died in the other room, I think.
The one that goes on the reciprocal saw?
I mean, I suppose it could. I wouldn't venture to put it there, but I'm sure somebody would.
What do you guys think about, what do you guys think about spirit guides and your loved ones around you to help you and guide you or protect you? Do you think that's
Stacey go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's basically my bread and butter in Palo Mayombe. It is the ancestor worship. Spirit guides, are a weird thing because you don't necessarily have the same one your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit guide may or may not be a family member. It may just be a guardian who's sort of around you for the time period that you're at to help you with the situation that you're in the moment. So, think of it like a teacher for a particular class. What you're dealing with right now has a specialist who comes in and helps you navigate this particular aspect, and someone will come in, after and, help you. Simply because we all can't be even spirits themselves can't be the alpha and omega of everyone in the life experience that they're having. So somebody who's been through it, who's experienced, can, say, this is what you need to do. So
no, I totally agree with you. I feel like I have moments of as I say, downloads or just information that comes to me that I feel like is definitely from a spirit guide or a protective ancestor, because I'm like, that did not come from me.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And on that front too, the universe of itself, what we were talking about in the previous show with Ian, remote viewing is the whole idea of downloading the database, the massive database that is the universe. And all you have to do is ask the question, even if on an unconscious level. A lot of times you'll just ponder things. You're asking the question, pondering this, and all of a sudden, wham, the information gets downloaded. And you're like, wow, that was kind of cool and weird at the same time. I didn't think that was actually going to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
And you throw all kinds of theories behind it, and you go down your own rabbit hole on why it is that just took place. And all it comes down to is you asked a question and the universe responded. So
I love that.
So for me, it's similar. I would say adjacent. I think there are resonating energies with your spirit when you come into this world, right? Mm-hmm. Who you are and who you're going to be and what your trials are going to be and again, I'm going to catch some shit for this, I'm sure. I think there's a degree of predetermination where your experience has already been mapped out. Your trial here on this run has already been figured out because there's something in your spiritual journey that you haven't figured out, and that's why you're on this run. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be someone that resonates with this particular run. There's going to be some kind of consciousness, right, that reverberates really close. And they're going to be the ones that are piloting you, for better or worse. They're going to be there on your shoulders. They're going to be your good angel. They're going to be your bad angel. Thank you, Stephen. Self-reaffirmation is always positive. But I think that our existence in this particular run, whether it's a simulation, whether it's real, whether it's purgatory, however you want to actually look at our run through this moment, right? This brief moment in total existence. We're here to learn something that we may not have known before. And there's going to be someone that probably didn't know it either when they had their run through. That's going to be that guide. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily someone that has your best interest at heart. It's not someone that necessarily has, some divine altruistic energy. but they're going to have experiences learning what you're about to learn. And that's, to me, that's the energy that is going to gravitate to you. For me, I'm very well aware who my like ride or die spirit is. And it's not the best person that you could ask for from like a moral perspective, you know, but it's someone that I know has learned a lot of the things through really difficult situations that I struggle with. And so I don't necessarily think it's a divine being. I don't necessarily think it's someone that can see into your particular future. I think there is some predetermined obstacles and hurdles that we're going to have to go through. And I think we run on a buddy system, right? And I think that there's a little voice in the back of everybody's head that whether they're connected from a familial or relationship basis, or just from an experiential basis, connected to, that has gone through a similar journey.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also feel like it depends on how open you are to acknowledging them. To like you said, Stacy, to like tapping in and asking questions and asking for them to come in and protect you, and learning more about your own self and your own spirituality and things like that. I feel like they come in more. I mean, I think even if you are not into any of that, they're there, but they can help you more when you kind of acknowledge them.
All right, Stacy, real quick. Okay. We've got 3.5 minutes left. If we could speed run some of the comment questions.
All right.
Are there any signs to be able to differentiate between something being an elemental or not?
Yes and no. Yes, that there are massive differences. But
I would imagine it's the energy presence.
Yeah, it's the energy presence, but they can cloak themselves. There have been known cases. I know one personally, somebody who came face to face corporally with one of these elementals, who made it look like she was a beggar, and it was an actual elemental spirit that was, addressing this person. The Beauty and the Beast, when the woman comes to the door.
Oh, that should be the new name of our show.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, I'm beautiful.
Oh,
yeah.
in the movie,
no,
Beauty
I meant
and the Beast.
The other way around. Julie.
No, I don't care.
When the woman came to the door and she was the beggar and the prince was being a real dick to her, that kind of scenario actually happens in real life with elementals. They'll test people to find out, what kind of person you really are, and they will manifest. They will look as physical as you and me, and you won't be able to know. They will reveal it later, that you either passed or flunked. But at the same time,
so that's the same with the Cailleach in Gaelic mythology.
It kind of
it's
keeps you on your toes,
representing winter. Yeah. All right. All right. So we got icy spirits coming up. Stacy, do you think a person can think too much to get remote viewing?
Not really sure. Remote viewing isn't.
Do you think they can internalize too much to really be able to do it? I think is the question.
Well, the protocols, if you do the remote viewing protocols that were created by the military, no, because you train your brain to actually turn those that information to a physical force on paper. You have a structure in which it's all laid out, and it really paint by numbers, to where not only does it produce the information that you're looking for, but it can be viewed and interpreted and read by others in a cohesive format, like you would look at sheet music. Somebody who's writing music actually has a format they have to follow in order to create those notes and that sound and everything. Remote viewing, the way that if you follow the protocols, is the same way. And as long as you maintain that, you can have all kinds of thoughts and think all kinds of things. But there's a process in which analytical overlay, which is your creative mind trying to take over, where those are dumped and you're reset back to getting the information. And all it really is, in all reality, that first impression that you get when you walk into a room, that happens within the first 3 to 6 seconds on what you're feeling, of what's going on. That first impression of meeting someone for the first time, that happens in 3 to 6 seconds. That's a data download. Remote viewing, the protocols do nothing but reset over and over and over again that 3 to 6 second window, and you're pulling down and you're writing down the information as you're getting it over and over.
I'm not going to lie, Stacy, I'd love to have an episode where you come on and we talk about this data download in the context of ADHD and trauma. Because
it actually helps people out with ADD and ADHD.
Well, so
stretches that changing of the mind that you get.
Yeah.
It stretches that window out longer and longer and longer because you're training your brain to say, this is what I want for this particular segment. This is what I want. What color am I looking at?
So I would argue the exact opposite. Is that window narrows, being ADHD and coming from a traumatic background. Mm-hmm. I would say that window is incredibly small because you're like, 3 to 6 seconds. I'm like, I walk into a room and I will walk out of a room in less than 3 seconds.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no, Julie, you see me do it. I don't know.
You're funny.
Like you see me walk in and walk out of a place in less than 3 seconds.
You wasn't feeling it, man. You were not feeling the vibe.
And I'd love to have a conversation around that. But no, guys, we're at the hour. I don't want to trip over anybody else's shows tonight. And honestly, I've had a ton of fun tonight. And
it was
everyone
nice
in the comment section, thank you so much for your engagement and your questions. Stacy, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I feel like every time you do, though, I have this background instead of my proper one back at the studio. I don't know what it is. Every time I'm at my kitchen table, you end up coming on the show. But I'd love to have you back. I don't know your availability, but we can talk offline about that. And anything to say to our counted viewers?
What do we got? 6? I know Sarah and Danny are there, and Icy Spirits, and
I don't know if Danny's still here. I think she just came on to say hello. I'm just teasing her right now.
Well,
if she is on.
Hello, everyone. It's great.
Any sign off message you'd like to give?
Peace. That's really it.
That's a great one, Julie.
Yeah, wonderful show. Such a great night. It's nice to meet you via video, Stacy, and connecting with everybody out there.
Same here, Julie.
And as always, from me, stay blessed, guys.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.